Yeah, no, I think we've got it right now.
Yeah, I think we've got it right now. Well, that's fun. Shall we start again?
I guess we'll start again. I think I did pretty shit to start off with anyway.
Alright, start again.
Fucking hell.
You want to go from the very beginning with the intro?
With the intro. Okay, you can hear us now.
Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell.
Shall I play the podcast jingle and then we'll start fresh? We
Yeah,
can skip.
sounds good.
We can skip some of what we've said.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to tear off on a 15-minute gaming podcast.
Yeah.
No.
Alright, so jingle coming your way.
So we could just talk about Pokemon Legends and fucking Elden Ring again.
No, we can skip that.
No.
Let's get straight into the football.
Straight into the football.
Yeah.
That's better. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Booth Podcast. My name is Fennon. I'm joined by my fellow co-host... Horse?
The fuck are you trying to say about us there, Fennon?
Oh, fellow co-host. Well, we've got one horse here and that is Gondor. How you doing, sir?
Oh, yeah.
And we also got Mayhem. How you doing, my good man?
All good, buddy.
All good. Everyone's had a good week?
Yeah?
Yeah, pretty good. Sweet. I think we should
Okay.
get straight back into. We should just get straight into the football because it has been a rather delightful week, if I say so myself. Cardiff won both their games. Celtic broke their hoodoo against Livingston.
And you got and drew.
Woohoo! Tables have turned this week. It was Stu that had the good week last week. But I'm going to start off with Celtic today, if you don't mind, Mayhem. So, like I said, a somewhat hoodoo broken against Livingston, a 3-1 victory, thanks to goals from Maeda. There was an own goal and a goal from James Forrest, a man who we don't often see every week pop up. You know, I mean, obviously he's been at the club for such a long time, and he's had his injury problems. He's had problems with niggles consistently, but ultimately, good result overall, Joel.
I think if you'd have spoken to any Celtic fan before the game, it was one that you were worried about, which is mental. You know, Livingston were in fourth before the game, but 15 years since we left the West Lothian with 3 points, a decade and a half since we'd beaten them. So a hoodoo indeed. For some reason, the Tony Macaroni Arena, that plastic pish that they play on, had really been a bogey problem for us for a while. And yeah, we get a penalty within the first 15 minutes, and I think it's going to be our day. And Callum steps up and hits the post, and then all of a sudden you're thinking, here we go again. But then 2 minutes later, Maeda gets sort of just pops up at the back post. Cole Starfelt flicks it on from the front post. Good save from the keeper. Maeda's in at the back post, and that's where you've got to be as a striker. He's in the right position at the right time and he scores. He's got a wee bit of criticism in the last couple of weeks, again in the Hibs game and a wee bit in the St Mirren game, that he maybe wasn't doing enough, which is a wee bit harsh. He's played a full season in Japan, and I know people don't see that as an excuse, but the guy runs and runs and runs, and I think he's done all right. I think he's 4 or 5 goals he's got for us now. I think he's done all right.
He's finding his feet, hasn't he? Slowly.
Yeah,
slowly and surely. He's getting there.
He's on loan. I think we have the option to buy him for something like 1.2 million. But this guy was never brought in to be our mainstay. Yakimakis was coming back from illness, so he was only on the bench. Kyogo's still missing through injury. So this guy, when everyone's back fit, it's probably third choice, fighting maybe for second. Yakimakis got the hat trick the other week there, so I think he's probably above him in the pecking order if he's fit and firing. So I don't think he's going to be an out-and-out striker all the time. I think a lot of time he might be competition for Yotta on the left. So I think he's come into that striker role and he's done all right. But yeah, we were good in the first half without being spectacular. Controlled a lot of the game. Livingston did hit the bar. Joe Hart pulled out a really, really good save as well from a corner. So getting at half time and need to go again, and Tony Ralston sensible, and thankfully it bounces off Devlin and goes in, and that gives us the comfort blanket. And then Jota slips through Forest 10 minutes later, and he takes the finish really well. Like you said, a man that has been out of form for a while, questions on whether he fits into Ange's system. But that's the 13th season in a row that he scored in the Scottish Premier League. He's a decorated footballer, and if we can get Forest fit and firing here for the last 8 games of the season, if he can, rekindle some of that form that we see under Rodgers, then he could be a really, really big asset for us going into these last couple of games. They're coming thick and fast. We've got 8 days off now. Obviously, being knocked out of all European ventures, so we've got to be a bit of a rest, be a bit to recharge and get some fitness into some guys, and then we kick on and go again.
Yeah, and as we spoke about last week, in terms of the difference in being the leader and then being the chaser, and we were talking about, the winning mentalities that Celtics still have, like, we mentioned last week, like McGregor, James Forrest, those that have been at the club through the glory days during that 9 in a row. Surely now, and as we did mention, James Forrest being one of those names that we spoke of, surely now, if he's getting some confidence under his belt, we can see him more regularly?
Yeah, look, I don't think if you were asking me, everyone's fit and firing. Who's your starting 11 at the moment? I think Lil Abada's been fantastic. He's actually unlucky not to score right at the end there. He comes on as a sub for the last 15 minutes, and the keeper makes a really good double save to stop him from scoring. So he's a constant threat. Abada is only 19 years old. He's kicking on, doing superbly well. So I think he would still be in there. Forrest, a decent 75 minutes against Livingston doesn't put him above Abada in the pecking order for me yet. But if we can get him back to something close to what he was playing under Rodgers, then like I said, it can only be a good thing. And we have got that. The boys that have been there and done it, McGregor and Forrest. These boys have won 9 in a row. That they know what it takes. Rogic there as well. You've also got Joe Hart. The guy's won Premier League titles. He's a winner as well. And Cameron Carter-Vickers, he's turned into a real leader this season. He obviously broke the deadlock against St Mirren. The game in the week there. It was a flat performance from us at home against St Mirren. The sort of the game before Livingston. It wasn't sort of struggling to break them down. They were parking the bus, and they come for a point and a point only. And fair play to them. The St Mirren coming to Celtic Park, so sort of what you expect. But Cameron Carter-Vickers got the breakthrough, and then Callum put the seal on things. I think it was about the 80th minute that he ends up getting the second. So we've got these players. You've got boys that have been even Tony Ralston, who hasn't played a lot of football for Celtic before this season, but he's been in and around the squad. Like, he knows what it takes to be a Celtic player, to have that commitment and ultimately to get over the line. Us being in front isn't unusual to these guys. They've been there time and time again.
Still very young, Anthony Ralston as well.
Yeah, look, I think he's proven every single Celtic supporter wrong, because at the start of the season, if anyone would have told you they believed that Tony Ralston could be part of this Celtic team, they're a liar, absolute liar. The guy got a 1-year extension, and everyone was kind of looking sideways, like, why have we extended this guy's contract? Juranovic come in, obviously we brought him from Legia Warsaw, cracking player, and it's took him 25 odd games to dislodge Ralston. He's been fantastic, and we've got 2 really, really good right backs. I think there's even an argument for some people that would still say that Ralston's better than Juranovic. I think those people are maybe looking with green tinted specs because he's a Celtic man and all this pesh that they talk about. I think Juranovic is a better player, but for Ralston to be pushing someone like Juranovic even close is incredible. He's really kicked on under Ange. And
what is Ralston missing that Juranovic has in his game?
That technical ability, the way he strikes the ball. Juranovic is he's a classy operator, where Ralston is more hustle and bustle. Like, he gets the ball, he's going to put his head down, he's going to run, get to the byline, cross the ball. Juranovic is as comfortable at left back as he is at right back. He's our set piece taker if he's on the field, takes our penalties. He just oozes class. He's a quality footballer. I'm not making the comparison; it'd be ridiculous. But like when someone's a bit too good to play right back, like Philip Lahm, Joshua Kimmich, these boys have ended up coming into midfield. I wouldn't be surprised in his future if he maybe stepped into midfield because he's a real classy player on the football. Right?
Seems to possess those similar traits as the likes of Kimmich and Lahm, as you spoke of.
Yeah, he's obviously not in that.
Not in that category,
realm.
just not quite in that category, but
I think like the boys like Trent Alexander-Arnold and these boys, like they're almost wasted at right back. Like he's a special player, and I think he's one of these ones that'll come into Celtic. He'll play for us for 2 or 3 seasons, and he'll get picked up by a top mid-table sort of Prem team. We'll end up selling him for sort of 10, 11 million pound probably, and depending on what the market value is like, but he will certainly make a big profit on him. And yeah, look, it's one of these ones I think you just have to enjoy, and just recruited superbly well. Like Leo Labada, Yotta, if we can get him over the line, Carter Vickers, if we can get him in. These there'll be steals if we get Yotta in for 6.5 million. It's a steal. If we get Cameron Carter Vickers in for whatever it is, I think it's reported at like 6 million as well. Again, like it's an absolute steal. The guy is worth triple that. So if we can get these deals done, then brilliant, because they've stepped into a Celtic team that no one believed we could be here. Not in your wildest dreams. At 20 odd points we were off them last year. We was in disarray. All of a sudden we appointed a fella from Japan that no one had heard of. We needed a complete revamp of the squad. Don Mackay goes within a month. Meant to be this new CEO that's going to bring everybody in, and you really didn't see it going well. But again, like I said, first time we dropped points from December last week, and we've bounced back with 2 wins, back to winning ways, and now we go Ross County, Mahons, and then I think I can't remember the last one, but there's the next 3 games. I think it's St Johnstone at home, maybe the next 3 games before the split, and then we get to the split, and we've played Aberdeen away twice, we played Motherwell away twice, we played Hibs away twice, we played Hearts away twice, and we would have played Huns away twice. They've played none of those away twice. They have done everything in their power for this league to be over at the split, and we're 3 points clear. Heavens forbid we beat them at that fucking Bigot Dome. They'll be shitting themselves, because they have done everything in their power for us to be done and dusted by the split. And here it is. If we go there, if it comes to the split and we're 3 points clear, then I think it's advantage us.
See, I'm going to be able to jump in here, because last week, Joel, you put me to shame with the amount of research you'd done for the podcast episode. So I have spent this week scouring newspapers, web pages, and all that shit looking for things to talk about.
He was in the staff room earlier, leant forward on the table on his laptop, eyes glued to the screen.
I had to big up my own reputation. But I did find an interview with John Hodgson.
Big John.
And he was saying that Celtic have to look at the next 8 games as being 8 separate cup finals. Every game is the biggest game you've played this season.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree with you.
No.
Because of, I know that we win the league and you become champions, but I mean the chances are, the very likelihood is that because of obviously them playing in Europe and then beating Dortmund, it almost rubber stamps that we will go straight into the Champions League group stage if we win the league. So crazy incentives.
And he was like very, very vocal about the fact that he has seen this situation before, and he's worried, or not worried, but he's keen to ensure that Celtic don't go for another, what did they say, helicopter Sunday.
Helicopter Sunday, fuck's sake! Yeah.
I knew you'd push a button with that, Stu.
That's what I'm here for.
Never looked at helicopters the same since that day. No, look, I think if it gets to that point,
I could have said something so bad there. Sorry, but sorry. Proceed.
If we get to that point and we fuck it up, it'll hurt. But I think context is a massive thing, and hindsight's wonderful. And when we get to the end of the season, to even be in it at this stage, like if we if we look at the lineup, not so much the Livingston one, I don't think, because he sort of raised a few eyebrows, but the likes of the St Mirren lineup with Joe Hart in goal was signed in the summer. Juranovic signed in the summer. Carter Vickers signed in the summer. Starfelt signed in the summer. Hattati signed in the summer. O'Reilly signed in the summer. Abada signed in the summer. Yotta signed in the summer. Maeda signed in the summer. Only Greg Taylor and Callum McGregor was not signed in the summer, and this team is top of the league. I don't think you could go anywhere else. Bar like non-league, but the turnover in non-league is obviously fucking nuts. But like you have to go so far that you can't go to like a top tier division in any country. And I think present someone that's signed, I think, and just sounds like crazy, like 13, 14 first team players to sign that amount of people and then build them into a team that's winning football matches consistently. The job he's done is fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the only bad thing that's come out of this week is that they're playing some dicky fucking friendly against those twats down in Australia. Apart from that, it's been fantastic.
And he did say that as well. He said that when they got, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, Angie,
yeah.
Ange.
He said that when they first signed him on as manager, he thought it was a big fucking nobody, was not good for Celtic, but now he also thinks, or he's updated that to say he doesn't think Celtic would be where they are right now if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, he brought this mad style with the inverted fullbacks. So, like, the fullbacks come in and invert and the wingers go wide, and no one had really seen it. He didn't have the coaching qualifications when he to actually coach in Europe. They had to be applied for when he was coming in. So I think everybody, you've got Glaswegians would have been all over the place struggling to pronounce Postecoglou. Pushed a bit. You've got fucking...
I would just love Ange to go full Australian after beating Rangers in an Old Firm. I want him to like proper go like, yeah, beat Rangers, fucking skits can't, mate. Like that.
But it's been a brilliant season. We've played some wonderful football in this high intensity that he's brought, and I think the only sort of dampness maybe Europe. We're a bit pish there. Come up against a good, Bobo Glimp or whatever they are.
But you were playing on a plastic pitch there as well.
I know, but we were just poor. I don't think there's any excuse. We've gone to Livingston and I've done around a plastic pitch. We played on plastic pitches against Kilmarnock and that. So they've been in our game for a wee while. So I don't think the plastic stuff is any kind of excuse. I don't know. Maybe a bit of naivety, maybe. But apart from that, yeah, it's been brilliant. I don't think anyone can quite believe it. And the Hoodoos, we hadn't beaten them for 2 years before we pumped them the other month. 15 years. Imagine not beating Livingston at Livingston for 15 years. That's fucking ridiculous. So getting rid of some of these Hoodoos, and when he come in, we hadn't won an away game since whether it was February. When he actually signed on. I mean, like Celtic Football Club to not have won, to be starting a season in August and haven't won away from home since February. Again, just ridiculous. So he had all these mountains to climb. Den with losing Edouard and everything else. He's lost big players and Christopher Ayer and everyone going. So there's big players that left as well, and I think he's done brilliant in that.
Oh, he smashed it. He's absolutely smashed it. Hats off to Ange Postecoglou.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to move on to Cardiff next, because we had a good week.
Yeah.
And Stu's got his statistics ready for the Cardiff.
Oh, I've got a fucking list up here on the computer screen. I'm ready.
Yeah. Tell you what a brilliant week. So, we got a home win against Derby on Wednesday night, thanks to an 85th minute goal from Uche Ikpeazu.
Jeez, that's a name from the past.
Uche. The man mountain himself. And then to top it all, to come 1-0 down away at QPR to win the game 2-1, thanks to 2 goals from two players that are our very own in Isaac Davis and Mr. Ruben Colwill.
No.
Stu's getting a semi of it already for me just saying his name.
See, I've got history with Ruben Colwill.
Ha!
Because on my personal Football Manager save on Football Manager 21, I signed him for Forest when I was in charge of Forest. And I said to Morgan, like, this guy is a beast. He was doing so well in my save. He was scoring goals for me, getting assists. And I was just like, who is this guy? Like, is he a real player? I'm always like, yeah, I think so. He's been doing all right in the under-23s.
Yeah, he was getting rave reviews in the under-23s at the time.
And then literally 2 weeks after I mentioned it to Morgan, he got called up to the first team and signed a first team contract. And so I was just, like, for me, I've mentioned, I think it was last week, that I'm a big fan of certain players. With Magnus Eriksson, you were joking about Edvardsen being my new one. I said that
It's definitely your new one.
I used to say that I was a fan of Villarreal because I liked Pires. Ruben Colwill is one of those. He's a player that I discovered by myself, and so I'm really keen to watch his development and see how he progresses.
Yeah. The thing is,
Ruben Colwill, baby.
Ruben Colwill. Oh. The thing is, like, he does have a special place in my heart already, Ruben Colwill. He's still very raw. I mean, he had a lot of eyes on him on Saturday and started off really well, created opportunities as he did, was very good on the ball, taking on players in tough areas of the field at times. But of course he showed his weaknesses as well. A big one that I had an issue with was his pressing. There was one scenario where he was chasing a player going forward and then decided to just step off of him and let him get a shot off, and thankfully Mark McGuinness deflected it out for a corner. But it was just one of those where I think this is why Steve Morison is hard on him, because he wants to play pressing football. He wants to be aggressive going forward.
I mean, it's the best style of football out there at the moment. A nice pressing game.
It really is, and the thing is, like in the Championship, like anyone can win it. And that's what makes it the best league in the best division in the world, in my eyes personally. Feel free to disagree, but the Championship, you'll get nothing more entertaining because you could pull a name out of the hat, and you'd still be in the running for it.
I mean, you can always see it as well because of how tight it is. I mean, it was only a month and a half, Cardiff were battling relegation, and now they're not really in for a shout, but they're still pushing towards the top half of the table.
I mean, I think it's just now finishing in a respectable position. Playoffs is a bit too far off now, and there's teams around us that are playing really well as well, and on a more consistent basis. But it shows that this process will slowly and gradually improve, and I do believe Steve Morison will get us playing the way Cardiff should be playing.
And he's finally signed a new contract.
And he has signed a new contract. He signed a year extension last week, which was the best news of the season so far.
Yeah.
Perhaps, probably since the January transfer window. Isaac Davis also was tied down to a new deal. He's now signed on until 2025. Again, another young player that's come up through the ranks and just he brings such a different dimension to the game. We haven't had a player like him since probably Craig Bellamy, who is just quick, agile, gets at defenders,
and has a mean shot on him if he can get it.
Yeah,
get
exactly.
It off.
Yeah, and he was fortunate with the goal against QPR a little bit.
Devil's advocate, does he foul the defender?
Nah. No, we talking about. Nah, nothing wrong with that. Well, I mean, there was a little bit of controversy though in the Derby game on the Ikpeazu goal, and there was big appeals from the Derby defenders on whether Ikpeazu should have been penalised for having maybe a little tug of the shirt just to get in front of his man. I think it was Curtis Davis.
I'm going to guess from the way that your face was just then.
I didn't think
and
it was
the way
bad.
thing
No,
that you're like, he probably did tug on the shirt a little bit.
But no. In all fairness, no. I'm gonna try and be impartial here. No, if Derby had scored an identical goal like that, I would have just said it was shit defending. Because I know Ikpeazu he's a big man, but at the same time, it's minimal contact. It's such minimal contact, and he just, he sticks a leg out, gets on the end of it, and finds the far corner.
Yeah, I think you want your defenders to be strong, didn't you? I mean, I watched, forgot about the Derby game, watched the highlights on the QPR game, and the defender takes a tumble, but I think if in the Championship that's fair game. I think if you were playing a Premier League team, you probably don't score that goal just because of the difference in the league. But you want your defenders to be strong, man. Like, shouldn't be getting pushed to the floor by a striker.
No, you shouldn't. That shows why Derby are going down this year.
Although, speaking of as well, because we're talking about Ikpeazu at the moment, from my research...
oh, here he goes.
Wales Online, a nice newspaper online.
A reliable source.
They rated all of the Cardiff players during the QPR game. And Ikpeazu, I mean, the average rating for the team was a 7. I think there was only one starter from the starting 11 that got higher than a 7, and a few got lower. But the 3 subs that came on, 2 got 7s, 1 got a 9. And you know that 9 went to Isaac Davis.
Yeah.
And then Ikpeazu got a 7. And their comment was that he made a great impact when he came on in helping Cardiff push forward. However, he had some poor decision making. Because he could have set up a third goal. And I saw this part of the game as well, and I said the same to you, and you said the same to me. He goes into the area, he's got Colwill to his left, who then has a wide open goal, and Ikpeazu kind of just runs it to the edge of the pitch and tries to take it on alone.
And this is the thing, like, going back to Colwill, like I said, like, he had a very hit and miss first half, and then started off a bit timidly in the second, and then that free kick came up, and he had marched up, and I think he knew from the crowd reaction as well that they were like, we were urging him on, like, come on, like, get at them, make something happen, and he just strutted up to the edge of the box, picked up the ball, went to Rawsey, went, I've got this. And he just probably pings in goal of the month. I wouldn't say goal of the season. I'm sure there'll be better contenders. But incredible free kick. Goes goalkeeper's side. Couldn't get any closer to the top corner. And Marshall's beaten. Any keeper's beaten. And yeah, it was just such a wholesome moment to see Ruben Colwill do that, like, the fact that he keeps going.
You saw it in the Liverpool game, the way he was pushing forward and trying to make something, and the goal he scored.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is the thing, like, he's so good when he's on the ball. It's just when he's off the ball, and I think that's what Steve Morrison wants to see more of from him. Is to work hard off the ball, press as much as you can, and break up play and then break again. That's the sort of player he is, and it's he will be one of the key players next season, because we most likely won't hang on to Tommy Doyle. I've said before that he's a Premier League player. Despite Cardiff giving him his best months of football so far, he deserves to be at a higher level, and I can see him probably going to someone like Fulham, because Fulham will go up. They'll recruit players, and then again, when I say recruit players, I mean they did the same as quite similar to what Celtic did in the summer, but it went the complete opposite way, where there was too many signings, and then I can't remember who was in charge at the time. It might have been Jokanovic when he signed like that Jean-Michel Seri, and it was that season, and it just proved to be, it was too many changes. There was too much unfamiliarity amongst them, and ultimately that cost them their Premier League status at the time. But I feel now with Fulham, they still have they've got players now that are good enough to play in the Premier League. They have Mitrovic, they have Harry Wilson, they have Tom Kearney, and I feel someone like Tommy Doyle. I mean, Fulham have done it once already with Harry Wilson, so they're probably going to break my heart with Tommy Doyle if they were hypothetically interested in. But Doyle, Drama, they're Premier League players, and they are going to be tough to retain in the summer. I don't think we will retain them, and this is where now the board really need to get behind Morrison. You've given him that extension. Now give him 100% say in the names he brings in the summer, because we've like I said, we still inherited a lot of dead wood from previous managers, and like they don't even get a look in now. And I'm talking players like Bakuna and Marlon Pack and Curtis Nelson. It's because they're just they're past it. They're used to the philosophies of our previous managers. They're used to Warnock style and Mick style and Neil, just a scrappy long ball sort of game, and they just don't fit it one bit. And Bakuna was just evident of it against Brentford over Christmas, where he just gets caught out so easily and then makes a needless tackle on the halfway line and gets himself sent off before that. Like the game could have been ever so different. And this is the thing, like we can't afford to have these players in and around the squad who are going to cost us big games like that. And so, but like I said, it's still a process. Again, I'm looking at Stuart's notes as well. I've seen Alfie Doherty and Joel Bagan right there. That's honestly been our best left side we've had ever. Because, I spoke about Joel Bagan a lot at the start. Mick was giving him a run in the team before he decided to go 5 centre backs at the back. Cheers, Mick. And so and Joel Bagan was just he was one of those players that I was just like, you need to give him minutes. I know he also took on the tough responsibility of filling the shoes left by Joe Bennett, whose contract ran out in the summer, and he ultimately ended up at Wigan. And to be like then the only recognised out and out left back at the time, who could go forward and come back and press, and because I think Mick at the time was playing Ryan Giles further forward, which at the time was the right thing to do, but then all of a sudden dropped Ryan Giles back and dropped Bagan, and it was just such a shame because I thought he had been one of our bright spots of that horror first few months with Mick this season. And so and then he just went completely missing, and then I think Morrison saw what I saw in him at the start of the season, gave him minutes under his belt, went and scored 3 goals in consecutive games, and this is the thing. But we got Alfie Doherty on loan, and with a loan player, he has to be playing week in, week out as much as possible. And I'm sure that Morrison will acknowledge the form of Joel Bagan, and that he will rotate them as much as he can, playing them, every other week.
And it's one of the first subs he makes as well, is that left back position.
It is, yeah.
He'll do it early on, and he'll make sure they both get time in every game to show what they're capable of.
Yeah. And in regarding the other players, I feel we should just do anything and everything in our power to retain them. Jordan Hugel being one. I mean, the guy who holds up the ball so well, he's technically good with both feet. Unless he loses his balance and he skies into Rose Ed on his left foot, which is exactly what he did. But This is the thing. Like we've got to maintain what we have right now, and we need to build on the other areas that are not quite what we need.
I don't think that you've any chance of signing Tommy Doyle on a permanent. I've told you plenty of times.
No chance.
Don't get attached. Don't get attached to lone players. Morg, I've had my heart broken too many times. Yeah,
It could be possible though that they extend the loan for another season, or at least until January.
I think he likes it down in Cardiff as well,
Yeah,
Tommy Doyle. I think he's really, really.
He's come into the team. He's become a key part of the team. He's getting the opportunity to fully show what he's capable of. But he's not quite ready to take the step to be a starting 11 member of a Premier League team.
Well, I mean, there's no chance he'll get into the Man City team, that's for sure. But
no, but I think, if he, like Morg was saying, if Fulham go up, I'm looking at some of the teams here. If Fulham were to go up, Bournemouth have 4 games in hand over Huddersfield. If they win those, then they're second. I mean, you look at Bournemouth's midfield, he'd walk into it. Even if like a Sheffield United or a West Brom, I know they've got Steve Bruce, but you look at some of the big clubs, Borough, Blackburn, some of these big clubs that are down in the Championship. If they were to say to him, look, and they would have the finances, I know that Cardiff have been in the Premiership a few times and have a biggest stadium behind them, 30,000, but some of these clubs are huge football clubs for the level they're at. Like Blackburn are previous Premier League champions, and Middlesbrough's a massive club for this level. Sheffield United as well. Nottingham Forest, massive football club, and even the likes of Derby. Derby's a huge football club. If they can get themselves out of bother, and going in and playing under the likes of Wayne Rooney, I think and I've a real soft spot for Cardiff. But I think if you're looking at them, and even if you're not a Cardiff fan, if you're not Welsh, if you're not from there, if you haven't been through it, I think if Wayne Rooney comes knocking and says, come play in my midfield in the Championship, and Steve Morrison says, come play in my midfield in the Championship, I think Rooney's the pull. Or if Middlesbrough say, come and play in the North East, or someone like that were to say, look, we've got a real chance of going up. And if Cardiff get it right, they have the chance, but they seem to go through these barren spells where they're off it for 2 or 3 years and then they'll storm the league. So I think you're right in what you're saying. Steve Morrison's come in and he's improved you, but you've had a fantastic week. QPR in the playoffs, they're going really well. I think Derby are a decent team, although they've had all their troubles. So 2 good wins, but we're coming off the back of that week where the Huddersfield game where it was thrown away, and I just think the likes of Tommy Doyle will have better offers, especially because he's come to Cardiff and he's playing so well. There will be people that will be watching him. All eyes will be on him because he's Tommy Doyle, because he's from Man City. The perfect example was Paddy Roberts when he was up at Celtic.
Oh, yes,
this boy,
of course.
This boy come in. He was from the City Academy. He come in. He was on loan the first season. He was adored by Celtic fans. He come back the second season. Paddy Roberts is a Celtic fan as well. There's pictures of him when he's 6-7 year old in Celtic tops. He come back. He took the number 7 shirt. The 7 shirt, he fucking the Holy Grail up there. So he took the number 7 shirt, come back, didn't have his best season. But even then, he won a double treble and then he just left. So there's no loyalty in football, even if he's enjoying his time immensely. I think he'll be around pure winners at City, like people that just are bumping it into him. You have to win. And if he gets an offer from a bigger club, a chance to go and shine at a Fulham or a top-end Championship team, I think he'll probably take that, unfortunately.
No, you're completely right. He is a player that needs to take the next step in the summer. When he goes back to City, he will have plenty of interest on his front door. And,
I don't necessarily think that he needs to take that step. Again, you look at Paddy Roberts and you look at these boys that come out of the City Academy that, like Stu says, almost gets a little bit too big for himself. I think Stu's got it right. I don't think, that he gets into a starting 11. Billy Gilmore's a perfect example. Norwich was struggling beyond there. I think he couldn't get into the side, but people were bigging him up like he was the best thing ever. So I think he's probably not ready to go in, but I just think he'll probably take a step too far, and then he could end up going up a level and then having to come back down a few and taking a few steps back. But you see it all the time with these City boys that they sort of go out and then it doesn't really work, and then they kind of fumble around in the academy for a bit, and it just it doesn't work. City just hoover them up and then loan them out. And Tommy Doyle could be that. He shines in the Championship. That gets him his move to wherever it may be, Fulham or Brentford or something like that, and then he's up again. All of a sudden, he's looking around him, and he's not having to play again he's not having to outshine the likes of Joe Rawls anymore. He's having to outshine the likes of Christian Eriksen or whoever Fulham go and spend on in the summer. And he's just maybe not at that level. Whereas if he'd stay at Cardiff and build himself up, there's no doubt that the boy's got talent. We've seen that for years, and he's had spells in the City team. Where he's played games for him. They built Foden up very, very slowly. So that's what Pep does. He builds them up very slowly. But I think he'll probably want to take a bigger step. I don't think it's the right move for him. I think if he's settled and he's playing good football, I think that's how you develop as a footballer. Eventually, if Cardiff were languishing lower Championship, he would have to move. And there wouldn't be any choice. If Cardiff aren't in the playoffs, then Tommy Doyle would have to step away for the betterment of his career. But I think at the moment, the way he's playing, he's happy. He's got a manager that trusts him, playing week in, week out, shining in that team, shining in the resurgence of Cardiff. I think it would be brilliant for him to stay, but there's no loyalty in football now, and you get attached to these wonderful players that come in on loan and they break your heart, man.
This is it. It's so hard. It's easy said than done.
Could be worse. It could be Everton.
Yeah, they're actually playing at the moment as well. What's the score in that game?
5-0. That's what I
mean. No way.
5-0. Holy shit.
Could we possibly be seeing Everton as a Championship team next season?
I mean, it's possible.
This is what I said to you, right? Before we started, they're lucky that there's 3 teams worse than them. Because, I'm looking at it now and I'm not quite sure that there are. I didn't realise they were that close. They're a point above Burnley. They have a game in hand. Fuck. As well, it's a fight. I think Brentford and Newcastle are probably out of it, aren't they?
Yeah, they've got to be. Oh, yeah, no. I do believe Newcastle are safe. Sam's voicing his opinion on Everton in the chat as we speak.
He's been talking. You can get involved if you listen to us live on a Monday.
Yes, you can. Yeah. Any questions you have, feel free.
He's been talking on that Everton are going down for a couple of weeks, and I've been saying he's been talking pish. So any chance that boy has to fucking tell us he's right?
Yeah. First time for everything. So,
but still believe in Big Frank.
Big Frank. Yeah. But and obviously, last thing about Cardiff, I think the final now, jigsaw of the puzzle going into next season now is to get Joe Rawls tied down as well.
But I think he'll do it because I was talking to you about this earlier, and it's on my notes right here, so I can mention it. Sean Morrison, that's his name, right?
Yeah,
the player,
centre back. Yeah.
Obviously, he's out at the moment. He's out for the season.
He is. Yeah.
Did his ATO against Derby, and Steve Morrison. It's going to get confusing.
He didn't do it against Derby. He did it against
Barnsley, whatever. Look, I'm not the Cardiff fan in this podcast.
Sorry, I interrupted your.
But he basically got asked, like, what's the likelihood of showing loyalty to Sean and getting him tied down? And he's essentially like, when the injury happened, I went to him straight away and I said I'd speak to the board and see what we could do because he deserves something like that. He deserves to end his career at Cardiff the way he wants to, not because of an injury that ties him out for the season. And he essentially said, and I've got the quote here, it was difficult because I didn't have a contract, so it was hard for me to push on those things. Obviously now it's in place, I can push harder on those things. Isaac Davis has just signed a new 4-year deal, which is something I had in the pipeline. Things will escalate and move a lot more quickly now. So he's got plans, he's got ideas. He's going to push on them now that he's got the board's backing.
Yeah. I mean, the contract situation with Sean Morrison has been pretty quiet from what I've seen. You know, I'm constantly in two minds over Sean Morrison. Of course, I absolutely respect and adore everything he's done for the club. I mean, he was part of that formidable force at the back with Sol Bamba, who you can't get a much better leader of men when it comes to the Championship, especially. And that really did rub off on Sean Morrison, and that's kind of what has built him up to the character he's got today. And I would like Sean Morrison to tie down another contract, like one more year at least.
Yeah, let him end the way he wants to end.
Like I said, like we're in a good period at the moment, and I honestly didn't expect to say that this season.
No.
Because things got so bad for the first few months. You always fear the worst, especially I thought we were down. We'd lose players in the summer, like big players. I mean, we still probably we still will, because we're not perfect. We're not quite there yet. And I think now, with Steve Morrison tied down, he will make he will solidify what he wants, and this is the thing now. Like with Sean Morrison, he stays one more season. Like, we've got an exciting project,
and at the very least, you should sign him on for one more season, because he could do a lot for.
And I'd
players.
rather him than Aidan Flint in the back line. I mean, in all fairness, like I will say, there are of course there could be players that you slate at your club. Joel has it with Mikey Johnston. I don't know, you had it with Trent at Liverpool for quite a bit.
I still do.
You still do. But yeah, mine's Aidan Flint. He's one of those where, it's just his build. It's just him as a player. Like, he can't help that he isn't that. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's massive, and going up in aerial situations, he's one of the best that you get in the Championship, but he just lacks. He lacks the mobility. That's the problem.
I find it hard for you to compare him to Mikey Johnson when he's played 33 games this season. I think Mikey Johnson plays 33 games his whole career.
Is it only 33?
33 games he's played. Aidan Flint's played this season. I don't know. Mikey Johnson could be below that, man. The guy plays 2 games and fucking breaks his ankle. Boys made of chocolate. I'm done with the guy. Like, fucking melts on a hot day. I'm done with him. Like, see if anyone's interested in him. See if this goes worldwide and you're a football manager. I don't care where you're from, Arbroath, Dundee, wherever you're from. Just if you're interested in him, I'll drive him to you. I'll fucking pay you to take him. For
Well, what I was going to say is I would rather Sean Morrison in the back line than Aidan Flint.
But I wasn't even saying have him on the back line. I was saying have him on the training field. Have him as the guy that can take your younger players, mentor them, give them the tips and tricks. Mm-hmm. Have him on the bench and come on at key moments where you need some experience, someone to lead the team. You don't need to sign him on and have him back in your first 11.
Yeah. Excuse me, sorry, I just got a text from Steve Morrison. He says, it's a no from me for Mikey Johnston.
Fuck's sake. I'd have paid his train ticket.
Right, moving on. Stu, you're Gordon.
Yeah. So, I'm very, very happy. We drew, and I've realised at the moment you, Gordon, are in the Svenska Cupen, and I've not actually said anything about what the Svenska Cupen is, just that it's the cup. I haven't explained how...
Swedish Cup. We translated it.
But I haven't explained how it works or anything like that. I just said we play it in the off-season. It's the Swedish Cup. We're in it. We were in the group stage and this was our group. So I love the Swedish Cup. Now the Swedish Cup in Sweden is very hit and miss. Some players don't care for it because it's just off-season to them. Other people really like it because it gives the off-season something, which is why I like it. It gives, you've got your friendlies, but you've also got your Swedish Cup, so there's something to get excited about during the off-season.
It adds a bit more of a competitive vibe to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Now, what I am going to say is I've never fully paid attention to the Swedish Cup. I know when games play, and I enjoy watching them if I get the opportunity, and I cheer on my team. But in my research, I decided to have a look so I could tell the listeners how it works. So there are 2 initial rounds. Your first initial round is 96 clubs. And it's from Division 1 through Division 4. Now, if you've ever played Football Manager, load up the Swedish leagues. There's like 4 teams in Division 4, 4 leagues in Division 4, 4 leagues in Division 3, 4 leagues in Division 2, and then like
so
2
they have north, south, east, and west.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
And it's just, they're massive leagues. So they throw a bunch of teams in, and they all play an initial round of like knockout football, essentially. Then you have round 2. Now this includes the Allsvenskan and the Superettan, which are the top 2 tiers. And they play essentially knockout football, and you narrow it down to get a group stage. And then you play the group stage. Now the group stage is during the off-season. So your initial rounds, round 1 for the lower tier teams, happens in the middle of summer, June, July. Round 2 for the top tier teams happens between August and October. Then the group stage happens in February and ends at the beginning of March.
There's
so
a massive gap between the initial rounds and the group stage.
There is, but that's because that's when the league's like underway. They have their break, then they have they play it at the end of the league, then they have their summer break, then they come back and do the off-season for the group stage. But here's where I get my issue. So this year, for example, the first game of the group stage happened between the 19th and 21st of February. The second game was a week later, and the third game was a week after that. The final games were played tonight, which is why I'm really happy, and I will get to that, because just as we were starting the podcast, while we were having our technical difficulties, I checked the scores, and they were brilliant for us, of the other teams involved. But then you have the quarter-final. So the quarter-final happens on the 12th and the 13th of March. Then you have the semi-final, which happens a week later. Then you have the final, which happens 2 months later. So the final is 2 months after the semi-finals. And I would get that if you had like a month between the group stage and the quarterfinal and the semi-final and then the final. But you don't. You're playing it all so quickly. Why not just start the group stages a week earlier and have the entire cup play out?
The thing is, though, there usually is a big gap there between the semi-final fixtures and the final.
Not 2 months.
Carabao Cup's about 2 months.
I think it's fucking ridiculous. But the Carabao Cup also has gaps of more than a week between all of the other rounds.
Well, they don't have a group stage.
I know they don't have a group stage, but you know what I mean. They don't play the final 16, the quarter-final, and the semi-final 3 weeks apart.
Yeah, very true.
Like, if you're going to do the cup format that way, do the whole fucking thing.
It's quite a bipolar format, isn't it?
Yeah. But I just wanted to get that off my chest. And it also explains to everyone how the setup works. So then you have your seeded teams and your unseeded teams. Your seeded teams tend to come from the top tiers, and your unseeded teams come from those that made it that weren't. So we had 7 groups, 8 groups. And it's only the top team of each group that gets through, and it's 1 game played against all the other teams in the group. Now, the way this works then is you get your points, and you have a league table at the end of it from all the top teams that topped their groups, and they get points for a win, point for a draw, nothing for a loss. And the way that they order it is points first, then goal difference, then goals scored. And if all of those are equal, they're rated on their rank in the previous season. So if they finished higher in the league, they'll go higher in the cup table.
Mm-hmm.
So the top 4 teams are seeded, and the bottom 4 teams are not. Now, Djurgården got 2 wins and a draw. They finished 7th out of 8. Today, AIK played Örebro. They're both Premier League teams, and they drew. And what this means is that AIK are an unseeded team. So Djurgården cannot be drawn against AIK, which is fantastic because, Joel, you were talking about this with Livingston and Celtic. Djurgården has a history of Stockholm derbies. We don't win them, home or away. We do not win a Stockholm derby. I think we've won 2 in the last 9 years, 10 years, and one of those was in the Swedish Cup.
One was in the Swedish Cup, and we beat Hammarby one time.
Yeah.
That was a good day.
And that was one of the biggest parties I've ever seen from Djurgården fans, because it's historical. Unfortunately, Hammarby did get seeded, so we did have the opportunity to draw them. But this is the exciting part. The draw happened tonight. And we didn't get drawn against Hammarby, which is our biggest rival because we share a stadium. So we got drawn against Kalmar FF. Potentially the easiest draw we could have possibly got.
I've just seen who AIK drew.
Yep, so I'm going to go through. Elfsborg finished top of the Swedish Cup League. That was a shock. They're not a horrible team, but they're not ever a team I think are going to push and be a problem. They drew Göteborg or Gothenburg. Hammarby drew Norrköping. And AIK drew Malmö. Now, Gothenburg, Malmö and Norrköping are all big teams.
Yeah, they really are.
So, looking at that, the only one I'm confident from Stockholm that's getting through is us.
It's probably the best outcome of the draw as well,
It's
isn't
definitely the best outcome of the draw, and I am so pleased with the outcome. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell us who's going to play who in the semi-finals if you win. But I really hope that we play either Elfsborg or Göteborg, because I do not want to play a Stockholm team. I really don't.
Again, worried about that.
That
Horrible
curse, and it's terrifying to play a Stockholm team. But that's all I really have to say about Djurgården this week.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you know, you haven't got an ongoing season at the moment. So.
No, I think it starts in like 2 or 3 weeks' time. So
Yeah.
we'll get up to it soon. But we've got the quarterfinals, we've got the semi-finals, and then I think the league kicks off.
Yeah, and then I think I'll tell you what, we should definitely try and get to a game as well.
Oh, we are going to a game. You have no worry about that, Fennan.
No worries at all. We'll definitely be on the ball when the season kicks off.
I mean, all I can say, Stu, is that was a lovely way to dress up you drawing to a team that's in the second tier of Swedish football.
Well, they've not long gone down. But
Helsingborg.
no, Elfsborg.
Elfsborg, not Helsingborg.
But Helsingborg was the team that relegated Helmstad, the team that you drew with.
Oh no, that was terrible. The result was horrible that we got the other day. We should have won. We should have finished top. I mean, when we were doing the research, Elfsborg finished top because they had a goal difference of 12. They scored 16 goals, and the reason they scored 16 goals is because they played a team. Where is it? Here, a team called Skiljebo SK, and they smashed 8 goals past them away. And conceded 1, but
pub team, mate.
Yeah, it is. It essentially is. So yeah.
I mean,
what are you going to say, Joel?
God love them. They got battered every week. That team. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just a beautiful way to dress up that they drew the second tier Swedish team, the third best team in Sweden, drawing with a second tier Swedish team. But they did it all to avoid the Stockholm derby. Apparently, that's what I'm getting from this. Stuart's convinced.
No.
I think it's just
no, because
it's a season of hoodoos being broke. You never know.
no. But what the thing is like we didn't know that we'd avoid a Stockholm team then because Hammarby were already seeded and IAK played their game tonight. So it could have been the fact that we would have had two opportunities to draw a Stockholm team in the league, in the quarterfinal. So I was more terrified by the fact that we drew than if we'd won.
I'm getting too dragged into Swedish football now. I'm looking up. What made me laugh is, have you ever seen the meme where it's like Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man?
Yeah.
It's like they're the same people.
Yeah, of course.
What cracked me up was the goal scorer for Djurgården, Johansson, the goal scorer for Halmstad, Johansson. I guess that's just the equivalent of Smith out there. Like
It really is.
It's a common thing in Sweden.
Yeah, you got Johansson, you got Andersson, and there's another common one that I hear all the time, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Like Klarsson, probably.
Klarsson, not so common.
look at this guy. I didn't realise he was still playing. Marcus Olsson cutting it about at Halmstad. They're in the second tier of Sweden.
How old is he now?
God
82?
love him. 33.
No, he's not.
He is, mate. He
No,
is in
33 and fucking dog years, that's for sure.
But if you want me to tell you the player that I give shit in this team, by the way, it's this guy, Haris Radetinac.
Oh, I like Radetinac.
See, no, there's nothing wrong with him, but there was this period of time where when I first started watching the games, he was a bench warmer, and he'd come on, and the guy that I went with would always be like, this guy, he gets us points.
Here we go.
And every time he came on, he did shit. Like, he didn't do shit, but he didn't impact the game at all.
I thought he did.
This is before you.
Oh, before
This
me.
is before
Oh,
you came out here.
Before me being here, okay. Yeah.
So every time he came on, he wouldn't play terribly, but he wouldn't change the outcome. He wouldn't make a big impact. And so it just got to the point where every time he came on, my friend would say, this guy gets us points. And then after about 3-4 games of him saying that, I recognised the name and was like that. And then he came on, my mate didn't say it, we lost the game, and I just turned to him and looked at him and went, gets us points. And so since then, he's like one of those that I rip on. And he's a lovely guy, he plays good football, but he's just like, he's that player I've got to rip on because of the history of how I got introduced to him.
I've just got nostalgia of playing pro clubs on FIFA with your brother. And after one game, like everyone had got like 6-7 skill points. And you can just hear him on the end of the mic go quiet and he just goes, I've got no skill points.
But yeah, so that's my Your Gordon take for today.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. Right, right. Moving on. We're going to go on to more relatable headlines and bigger headlines as well. So another crazy weekend of Premier League football. The big one that of course stands out was Man City's onslaught of their biggest rivals, Man United, 4-1 in the end. A lot of backlash and a lot of criticism going United's ways from, well, most noticeable, I can't even say that word. Noticeably, okay. Roy Keane.
Oh, I thought you was going to say our mate from work.
No, Roy Keane.
Yeah.
Our mate from work's not a pundit.
You never said a pundit, you just said backlash.
I'm pretty sure I said, well, from pundits, you know what I mean. But even to the point where people are throwing Roy Keane's name in the hat to manage Man United.
One name in particular, Jamie O'Hara.
Jamie O'Hara.
What?
Jamie O'Hara had an interview about the United game, and he had a lot to say, and I agree with a lot of it. And one of the things that he said is that he would love to see Roy Keane manage United just to whip them back into shape and get some
mentality
back into them.
No, this is what.
Come on.
He is. No, I honestly don't. I know he isn't going to be listening to this. I don't rate Jamie O'Hara as a pundit.
Look,
I'm not saying he's a good pundit. I'm
No,
saying I agreed with what you said. He's not even saying that he'd be a good manager in terms of getting the football out of them, but just to whip the attitude back into shape.
well, you can come and pay me 30,000 a week if you want someone to just shout at them. I'll even perfect a Cork accent if you want, if that's all it takes. Roy Keane he's a bam-up merchant, right? He's a cracking player. He has big standards, but he's a grizzly beard and he just rumbles on the TV. Would he be a good manager? God, not Ipswich, fuck's sake. No, he wouldn't.
Well, this
Right?
is the thing, we've seen it firsthand at Sunderland and Ipswich, and
Biggest job in English football, right? I don't care. I'm north of the border. I've absolutely no bias either way. Liverpool and United are out on their own from everyone else, but Man United is the biggest job in England, without a shadow of a doubt. Roy Keane, right, he done okay at Sunderland until we got to the Premier League, shat the bed. Then he went to Ipswich and done dog shit. And after those two, the guy's just interviewed at Sunderland again and not made it. So whatever he said at Sunderland, who were cutting about in League One, whatever he said there to the owners, they didn't agree with. It took people talking him up about going in and being it's craziness. Like, yes, United are in a bad way. As bad as we've seen them, they've fallen a long way, and they thought bringing in Ralph Redknapp would, re-energise or something. But you look at the time that Klopp needed to really impose his style and play, and the way that Pep's gone to other teams and crafted. Ralph Redknapp hadn't been in football for whatever it was, like 10 years. He hadn't managed a team. If Roy Keane would maybe be good as a coach or something like that, maybe as an assistant, as a number two, which he did under Martin O'Neill for a wee bit at, the Republic of Ireland, and I think a wee bit at Aston Villa as well.
yeah,
But he doesn't want to do that anymore. He don't want to be a number two. He wants to go back into management. He spoke about it a few times, but I mean, to put him in that job would be mental.
They'd be criminal.
Like, I want to emphasise, I'm not saying I think he'd be a good manager, but I do think, like, maybe what you said, Joe, is the better option. Have him in as a number two. Have him in as a coach, but he'll be a kind of guy that'll get there and not take the shit that football players nowadays are. Spoiled rich kids, essentially. A lot of them that come up from the academy. I'm not taking away from the ones that are grafters and work hard and come from poor backgrounds or anything like that, or even the ones that come from good backgrounds and work hard. But we were talking about it earlier a little bit with some of the City lads that they come out and they've got these big heads. I'm too good for this team. I'm going to push for this team instead, and then they just kind of fall flat. And I think a lot of the players at United are like that right now. They're part of a big team, they think they're better than they are, or they think they're already reached their potential, and so they either need a swift kick up the arse, or they need to be sent to a smaller team to get some game time working with more experienced players that will mentor them and put the correct attitude into them.
Yeah, and Roy Keane stepping into those shoes, I guarantee you, well, for a start, Harry Maguire will hand in the transfer request straight away. Cause,
he should, anyway.
Yeah, he should anyway. Well, he should just retire.
Did you see that hang on Instagram? They're like, if someone's verified on Instagram and if you don't think they're real, you can report them for pretending to be something.
No way. I know where you're going with this.
Someone reported Harry Maguire for pretending to be a footballer.
I knew where that was going. Yeah. Oh, gold. Absolute gold.
Seems a long time ago since he scored that header against, who was it, Albania or whatever, and he cupped his ears. I think you can hear the haters now.
But yeah, I can't hear anything past that fucking.
But like the team is too disjointed right now.
You know,
they started off. They were building together a really good team. I thought. I'm not a United fan. I do not like United. But I thought that they were starting to put together a team that could work together. I'm not saying they ever had the opportunity to work together, but they were starting to forward think. Then they signed Ronaldo.
Yeah, but back to what Joel said. When?
I think there was planning going into some of the signings.
Like who?
I don't know.
I mean,
not.
if we roll back to there was a transfer window, and I'm not making this up. I mean, it's actually real. You can go and check it. They signed Dan James. They signed Harry Maguire. And there was someone else in there, but it's mental money. They spent nearly like 200 million. Like, I mean, it may have been Fred even. It may have been Fred, Harry Maguire, and Dan James. It was nearly £200 million. The recruitment. Do you know City have only spent Man United have spent 1.2 billion, City have spent 1.25 billion, and City have won whatever it is, like 4 league titles in that time, 11 major trophies. Not the money, it's the recruitment. The club is rancid from top to bottom. Like, you've got owners that take money out of the football club. Won't get into the Glazers because they're a parasite on the game. But it seems like they've got people that can scat people. They're fucking controversy everywhere because of Mason Greenwood as well. That doesn't help anything. I mean, Rafael Varane must be looking around at what he's standing next to thinking, I swapped the Burnabout to be standing next to Harry Maguire and Luke Shaw. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, like, come on. And I'm struggling here.
This is
like,
it.
since when the Man United, this whole English taxing is getting beyond a joke. Like, Wan-Bissaka at United? Like, what is going on? Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, like, these are mid-table Premier League players. Don't get me wrong, they're good players, right? But they shouldn't be playing for Man United. It's mental. Fred's another player that'd be really good for like Wolves or someone, but he's not a Man United player. Probably the only people in that squad that are Man United players, in my honest opinion, is Rafael Varane. But Rafael Varane has always been, suspect. He's always had Sergio Ramos or another good centre back next to him. His pace gets him out of a lot of problems, but he's always been a bit suspect. So he's got the talent there, but probably Varane, De Gea, and maybe a couple more years. He's rediscovered some form. Fernandes, and I would still have Ronaldo every day of the week. The man is an absolute winner through and through. Apart from that, you're struggling. I'm struggling to tell you anyone else that is at the required level to be at that football club. It needs stripped back and rebuilt, and it doesn't need rebuilt with fucking Fred and McTominay. Fuck me.
And there's so many indifferent opinions right now on Ronaldo and Cavani because of all the speculation of their refusal to play in the game on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who knows if that's true? I mean, Pogba, he's another one, isn't he? Like Pogba, 100 odd million on this guy, and you get what, one performance every 10 games? Nah, not for me. Like, there's something there. Like Roy Keane's hit the nail on the head. Just you can be as good a player as you want, but you just need to do the fundamentals correctly, right? You just need to, do the basics. I was watching an interview with Declan Rice the other day with Gary Neville on the Overlap, I think, and he said that his dad still texts him before every game. He says, "Win your first tackle, win your first header, make sure your first pass is completed." Like, just these basic fundamentals that get you into a game.
Yeah,
and that's someone that I think will go to the very top. I think he's pushing West Ham up the table. He would be someone that's got the right mentality to come into a top team, whether it be City, Liverpool, United. That's the kind of player that they need to be going out and getting. But because he's English, because he's doing well, like, it's crazy money, and then you don't have enough to just spread it across, because United need 7 or 8 before they're anywhere near the title.
this is the thing.
So, speaking of quickly, the links between United and Hammers there, Rashford leaving. Now, there's a lot of speculation saying that Rashford might hand in a transfer request, if he hasn't already.
Yeah.
The top two names that I've seen during my research, the two that have shown the most interest right now are West Ham and Newcastle. I personally think either of those would be a great move for him. Again, just going back to what we were saying before, let him take a little step down, find his form again, and help a team that's a little bit lower than what he's been playing in step up.
And who knows, like hypothetically, if he was to make that move, the way things are at United right now, because I'd describe right now, they're the new Arsenal on steroids. And where the on steroids part comes in is because of all this money that they have offloaded. But they've inherited a team like Arsenal once had, like where they just had such a negative mentality and a negative way of playing football, where it's sideways, it's slow, it's lethargic, it's there's no drive. There's completely no drive, and they're going down that dark path that Arsenal once did. And we could talk about Arsenal shortly because, I mean, they're just they're now a breath of fresh air to the Premier League right now. I saw how they played against Watford, and it was just such a, like I said, it was like a new lease of life in there, and like they've had to go through that process of sort of resetting and strategically bringing young prospects in when you have like Bukayo Saka, Emil Smith Rowe, and then to put them together with the likes of Lacazette, who of course who has been heavily criticised so far, because he gets chances and just doesn't put them away, but at the same time he still offers that experience and he can do more than score goals. And they've then brought in the likes of Martin Odegaard, who just now is coming to show his true potential that we were once told when he made that big move to Real Madrid when he was 16 years old or something like that. He was 15 or 16. And we're only seeing now that he's now found a system that works. You look at the likes of someone of Bruno Fernandes, who is just, again, he could be even highlighted as an individual. That's the problem with United at the moment. They're a team of individuals.
Yeah. And they have been for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, they've just got to go through, and there's a lot of weight on Ralph Rangnick's shoulders as well. It's been said that he is staying on at the club, but he's going upstairs. He's going into I think it's a technical director role, and he has a say in who comes in to take the reins.
I mean, it's scary, but the money that is being spent. I mean, hopefully he can go upstairs and find some functioning people that can do their job properly. Because I mean, the people that are coming, that boy Diallo that come in, that's up at Rangers at the moment. They signed him from Atalanta for 40 million, and he was pocketed by Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor put him in his pocket. This you're spending 40 million on this boy. What is going on? It's been the recruitment has been awful. They look like a team that has absolutely no idea what they're doing. And you swap that over and you look at Man City, who they were playing on the weekend. Everybody knows their role. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody understands their role. If he presses and I go here, if he goes here, then I cover here. On the ball, in transitions, just everything. It was night and day, and United have a long, long way to go before they're anywhere close to that. And I'm telling you, whoever comes in, whoever they convince to come in, I mean, I don't even know who would take the job. Realistically, I mean, Pochettino's probably got a hard time at the moment. Imagine managing PSG. The egos that you've got to battle with.
Oh but yeah. Oh.
If you turn up at United, just like I said, I think they're seven big players away from competing, because I would struggle to see how they would get. They're not getting top four. I mean, that's just not a chance. Anytime they play a big team, they get beat.
This is the thing, and it's amazing how they're still 5th place. They're still in the running. And you
I
just
think there's a lot of
imagine,
people that have game in hand, so no random.
there is actually.
There's a fair few.
Oh my god.
West Ham don't, but Tottenham do. They have 2 games in hand. Wolves have a game in hand. Southampton have a game in hand. And
Arsenal are a point above them, have 3 games in hand over United.
Chelsea are a bunch of points above them and have 2 games in hand. Liverpool has a game in hand. And they're gone though. But the teams, Wolves, Tottenham are the big one that could catch up to them, and Wolves have an opportunity if the form picks up for Wolves and continues to falter for United.
Yeah.
Unlikely, but the opportunity's there.
Mm.
And I think, West Ham, the season they're having, I'd back West Ham to win more games going down the stretch than United. Tottenham have a couple of games in hand, have obviously performed very well tonight as we were recording this. Struggle for United, struggle to see where they're going to pick up their points if they play like that. Obviously, they could have had a bad day, and there'll be days when they play, lesser teams and they play better, but really, really difficult to see, where they get easy points. They play Tottenham next on the weekend. Tottenham just flying, coming off of that 5-0 win. Harry Kane, looks like he's starting to find form again. And then they play Atletico Madrid. You know what I mean? It's a wee bit mad that they're still kicking about in the latter stages of the Champions League as well. I think they draw that first leg 1-1 as well, so they could end up being in the semi-finals if they beat Atletico Madrid.
Quarterfinals.
Oh, is it the quarterfinals? They beat them.
round of 16 they're in at the moment.
Yeah.
And they're at home next over Atletico. I mean, away goals aren't a thing anymore, so pretty redundant, isn't it?
But if they were to beat Atletico Madrid again, they're not having the best season. I think Barcelona took them apart the other day as well, that young Barcelona team. So if they get a result against Atletico Madrid at Old Trafford, they could be in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, but they just look miles off it.
Yeah.
Miles away. And obviously when we were all growing up, Fergie's United, they were the mainstay. You couldn't ever imagine them languishing in 5th.
This is the thing. How frightening were they under Fergie back in the day? Like,
you wouldn't want to play him under Fergie.
It's a game you dread.
Yeah.
You always dreaded playing Man United.
Yeah,
and they've lost that fear factor. That's the problem. They've lost it.
Yeah, no, I'm looking and I'm disappointed that a game has been postponed against United in 2 weeks. Because it's a game that I'd expect to get points off and try and close the gap against City.
This is the thing, and just looking at the Premier League table at the moment, it is the most topsy-turvy season we've had in a while, because right now you could not put your money on who would finish 4th and who would go down. Both of them.
I think Everton have got it in them to stay up. Sorry, Sam, if you're still listening in the chat there. Everton can stay up. They've got 3 games in hand over Brentford. They got a game in hand over Burnley, 2 games in hand over Leeds. They've got enough about them to stay up.
But saying that, their run is awful.
Yeah, it's not a fun-looking run, and I expect Liverpool to pile the pressure on them as well.
So, their next 2 games are huge. So, they're at home against Wolves. Obviously, Wolves are a good team, but it's a home game. And then they play Newcastle. They're huge games. And then, the West Ham, who are flying high, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Leicester, Arsenal still to play. So,
yeah, and Leeds, they've got Chelsea, City, and Arsenal to play. So their running looks a little bit nicer. But
Everton are another team that have done ever so poor in the transfer window as well.
Yeah.
Oh, the money they've spent on certain players, again, it's so identical to Man United. And, you're talking names of, like Yannick Bolasie, Davy Klaassen. I even think Dele Alli is in that category right now. He's not quite, the guy's a one-season wonder. he had a fantastic season with Tottenham when he had his little breakout when he joined from MK Dons, and then like I said, Alex Iwobi, didn't I?
I think so.
Andre Gomez. I think he's become more of a reliable squad player they have. They've done well in certain areas as well, recruiting Donny van der Beek, that Vitaly Mikalenko, the left back.
We're looking online, and I love the fact that the Van der Beek photo still has the United shirt on.
I think the big thing for Everton is that they just don't have goals, and I'm like, I think between Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, they've managed to knock like 7 goals this season. Dominic Calvert-Lewin that's being linked with like a move to Arsenal. I know he's had big injury problems this season, but he's mustered 3 goals. Richarlison, he was linked with Barcelona, wasn't he, at some point last year?
Yeah, he
4
was.
goals.
Yeah, it was before Barca had their financial problems.
So it just seems, yeah. I think they'll have enough of that, and I think they'll pick up enough points to stay up. I just don't. A lot of people believe in the Sean Dyche factor, but I just think this is going to run out. I think Burnley will go down. They have a massive game on the weekend away to Brentford, and if they don't get anything from that, then I don't know.
This is the thing, yeah. No, it is honestly, yeah, it is just such a difficult assessment to make as to what teams stay up and who does make 4th place. I agree with you, Joel. I do feel that Arsenal will get 4th place, just based on the way they're playing at the moment. It's they're playing attractive football. They're playing aggressive football. They're quick.
They're in great form.
Yeah. No, I strongly believe that Arsenal can seal 4th place, and like I said, they're going to go from strength to strength. I hate to say that because I'm pretty sure Sam's watching.
I think their biggest competition for 4th is Spurs. They're still the North London derby to play, so Spurs can close that 3-point gap. So I think that's their biggest competition. They've mega games in hand on West Ham and United. If Spurs were to fall away, Arsenal already in front of these teams with like 3 games in hand. So you'd expect them to sort of etch out a sort of 4 or 5 point lead. They're going into the back end of the season. So I think it's probably between Arsenal and Spurs. And it's just who can hold their nerve, and we all know that Tottenham love a bottle. So
they do love a bottle indeed. I do feel for Conte though at Tottenham. He's an accomplished manager, had a lot of success. Most notably, in recent years, seeing him take over Inter Milan side, who were at the time in quite a similar position as Man United, and again turn them back into a title-winning force again. Do you sort of feel that he could perhaps but he's very honest when it comes to the way Tottenham have played, and that he acknowledges the fact that he may not be, his job may not be stable by the end of the season. But with his history, do we still feel that he could really turn things around with Spurs?
I think it depends on when you watch Spurs. I think if you've watched them tonight, I'm sure you watch them against Man City. You've absolutely you believe that Conte can, but then you watch them against Burnley or you watch them against someone else, and they're flat and awful, and that's why he's getting the stick for it. Knocked out of the cup against Middlesbrough or something the other week, so. It's just, I don't know. It seems to, when Tottenham are on it, they seem to be superb, could beat anyone, beating Man City. But, half the time they're just this flat average team. And if he can sort of find what makes them that upper echelon, but I think the problem is that it's probably Harry Kane being at the peak of his powers, and I'd be surprised if he's there past the summer.
You've also got to ask how much of that City game was to do with the wind.
With the wind?
Don't forget, it was in the middle of the big storm. Any ball above head high was getting dragged by the wind at least a little bit.
Yeah, Storm Eunice still playing her part. But we also saw Jesse Marsh's debut game with Leeds. Much improved performance. Still falling short, but it was definitely a much more defensively spirited effort from Leeds. I don't know if you.
I mean, it's nice. It's nice to see that they were only 1 goal down as opposed to 4 or 6 or 3. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's not hard. Did you see any of it, Joel?
Yeah, I watched the whole of the first half, and they seemed a little bit all over the place. I think ironically they got better defensively in the second half and then conceded the goal. But Harvey Barnes was sort of goes on to win the game with the goal. But I think he had a really good game. He was doing well against the right back. And then, Jamie Vardy, with his running in behind, was causing them a lot of problems early on. And then they kind of shored up, but Jesse Marsh, that's the kind of system he's going to play with. Seen it at Salzburg, didn't quite work at Leipzig. He is going to make them more defensively sound. I mean, but if anybody went in, they'd make them more defensively sound. Bielsa plays a really frantic style of football. When it works, it's brilliant, and when it goes wrong, it just looks ridiculous. So I don't think he would have had to do much to make Leeds look more defensively sound. And where they are at the moment, it's all about points. They can play as well as they want. They just need points. If you'd offer any Leeds fan abysmal performances all the way to the end of the season, but they're picking up points to stay up, they'll take it. So they just need to get over the line there. They need to start racking up the points, or otherwise they're going to be in the same position they were, all those years ago, where people are saying, this Leeds team's too good to go down, which a lot of people think it is. The likes of Rafinha and Phillips, Bamford, these boys are Premier League players, but if they go down, they'll lose them again, and then that's the problem. You go down, you lose these players, and then you're stuck in the division for a while.
Yeah.
That's what Fulham have done really well. You look at the boys that Fulham have been able to retain. Mitrovic, this guy's just scoring goals for fun because they've been able to retain him in the Championship.
Yeah.
Whereas when a lot of teams go down, they just don't have that wage structure there to facilitate it. And I think if Leeds go down, they definitely lose Rafinha. They'd probably lose him in the summer anyway.
And that ties all back into what you were saying earlier as well, with there's no loyalty by players really. They want to play Premier League football, so they'll jump ship the moment a name from the Premier League comes to knock on the door.
Yeah, it's all down to how settled they are as well. Like, of course, there is no loyalty in football anymore, but then you look at Mitrovic, for example. A man who could easily, move abroad to, he could do well in Serie A, he could do well in the Bundesliga or whatever. But I think with the contract he's got and the way he's been playing, he's scoring left, right, and centre for Fulham. Like, you do get players that become ever so settled at their clubs, and of course, he's on a big wage as well. He lives in the capital, and he's got his family settled in there, and he's in no rush to go anywhere anytime soon. Like, unless Fulham take a massive, drastic fall from grace, he's one of those where loyalty does sort of play its part as well.
Yeah, I think loyalty, like you said, with the big paycheck was keeping him tied down. The contract he's on, would he get that somewhere else? Probably not.
Yeah.
And I think what's got to be in the back of his mind, although he would never admit it as a professional sportsman, but he's never done it in the Prem, really, has he? Goes up and scores 5 or 6 goals. So what's to say that he goes to Serie A, uproots his family, moves out there, goes to Serie A or Germany or France or wherever, and he's going to hit the ground running. It may be that he sort of fizzles into nothing. At Fulham, he scores these goals, he gets into the Serbia team, he's on a big contract, like you said, he's in the capital, so all these things kind of play the part, but is he loyal to Fulham? I don't think so. If Chelsea come knocking tomorrow and said, you can stay in West London, we'll pay you the same, do you want to come play Champions League football? I don't think you'd ever see Mitrovic play for Fulham again.
Yeah, well, I mean, it would definitely be something that, we obviously would love to see be tested. Chelsea coming in the summer for an offer for Mitrovic. Do well at Chelsea as well, I reckon. But again, it is that step up that he seems to sort of, it weighs a bit too heavy on him. Like, he'll go from banging in, over 30 goals in the Championship with ease, and then going up to the Prem and barely hitting double digits.
Yeah, I was going to say possibly struggle to hit double digits, especially at a bigger club.
I think with the players around him as well,
yeah,
would be a big difference as well, to him as well. But
I think we've seen, with loads of people, Lukaku's come back to the Prem and it hasn't really gone right for him. Like it is a different level from most places. It was certainly he was ripping it up in Italy, and he's come here and it just isn't clicking for him. So there's maybe that factored in, but yeah, I'd struggle to see Mitrovic. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at his stats now, and in 2018, 2019, he scored 11 in the Prem, but then the next time he was up there, he scored 3 goals. So yeah.
Yeah, well, just have to wait and see. It'll be, it'll get more and more interesting as the season goes on. In every aspect, from the race for the top 4, the drop of the surviving the drop, who goes up in the Championship, and of course our teams as well. Cardiff have pretty much ensured safety now. We've now hit that 40-point milestone now. Celtic are still leading the Scottish Premier League, and York Gordon are doing all right in the Swedish Cup.
We should make it to semi-finals.
Yeah, there is. But we are going to start to slowly wrap things up. Now, we made it quite a big thing in the last episode, and I'm going to give you boys an opening right now. Is there a story for the Fennon Chronicles?
Maybe we should rephrase that. There are plenty of stories for the Fennon Chronicles. Is there one that we should share?
Well, look, you boys take it away.
I mean, I can always tell the story about when we went to London.
For your 21st.
Yeah. It wasn't my 21st.
What one comes to mind, Joel, for you?
I mean, the first one that's flash in the mind is the infamous night where you had 2 drinks and 4 shots. And you were laid up on a wall, couldn't move, trying to.
I think we got to hear that one. I don't know that one. I can save the London one for another time.
Joel, the stage is yours.
I think it was one of these last minute sort of things, and we'd taken ourselves to the culture-ridden Dartford.
Good old Dartford.
I believe we was in the infamous Clipper.
Yes.
And
come on.
Morg was just drinking. Morg wasn't setting the normal pace that he normally sets. Everyone's sort of tearing on. We'd got there quite late as well, so we were kind of pinning. And Morg had 1 drink, then we had a shot, and we had another shot, and we had another shot. And we had Morg finally finished his drink. I says, "We'll celebrate. We'll have another shot."
What were we even celebrating? Just being sociable.
I mean, I think we were celebrating that it may have just been us out, and the rest of them had absolutely dipped on us. Who knows? But the plan was, so every time we was out in Dartford, Morg had this great idea that we should go to this nightclub, and I used to refuse at point blank. Morg, I'm not going there unless I got to a certain level of drunk, and then I used to find myself, regretting being in this place.
This place that shall not be named.
Because it's got too many names.
Feel like you got Velcro on your feet. Walking, you feel like you got Velcro on your feet. You're stuck to it. Oh, disgusting, dude. Whatever.
Once.
We're tearing along, Morgs. Managed to 4 shots, 2 drinks. He says, "Come on, we'll go." And bear in mind that since I've got in this place, I've just been pinning drinks. So I'm at that place. I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's make a stupid decision. And on the route round, Morg was next to me. We're talking. Morg stops talking. I keep walking it must be a couple of minutes before I realise that Morg's just sitting on a wall. Go back, see what he's doing here. Morg, what's the matter? He just says, "Nah, mate, I've got to go home." Says, "This is when you lived in, fuck knows where you lived, mate, in the back house of nowhere."
No, Longfield.
Longfield.
Oh, no, Higham. No, it was Higham.
Was it
Yeah,
Higham?
it was Higham. You had to get a train
back
home,
house,
yeah.
Back house of nowhere. And I was like, "Mate, what do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm catching the train." I says, "Mate, you're not catching the train. What the fuck are you talking about? You can't even walk up the fucking path. What do you mean you're catching the train?" He says, "Come on, I'll get you in a taxi." He says, "Oh, okay."
Go back to yours, yeah.
I'm now carrying him round to the taxi. And I says, "Morg, fuck me, how much did you drink?" He just kind of sways and sits to me. He says, 2 drinks and 4 shots. And that sort of stuck for a while. It went through the group chat, but
it was just a trademark,
had
wasn't
this
it? Yeah,
crazy night out, and Morg probably spent the guts of a tenner.
Well, honestly, the only thing, apart from the 4 drinks, 2 shots remark I made, the only thing I remember that night is just arguing with Joel. Like we were arguing in the Clipper because I went through a period of being socially awkward where I just wouldn't go up and order drinks. I'd be like,
"Oh, I remember that period."
Yeah, do you remember it as
I
well?
remember that period.
I mean, I'm all right with it here in Sweden now. Like, I'm not like it when we go into if we were to go into a.
What do you mean you're not like it here now? We went out for a walk the other day. I went, "I'm going to run down the shop." No. You go in the cafe and get a coffee, and you turn around and go, "But if I say something, he's going to look at me." It's like. Yes, you're ordering coffees.
No, but there's a difference in ordering 4 drinks, 2 shots of the Clipper, right?
And going into a coffee shop. Bearing in mind, in Sweden, the Swedish for coffee is cafe, and the Swedish for latte is latte. So it's the same shit.
The thing is, it's like the Kevin Bridges sketch as well. It's just like you know that one bit of Swedish, and then they go fully Swedish on you, and you just crumble. What the fuck's a hot hamburger?
Like, seriously, I'm sorry. The only things you need to know to order a coffee in Sweden are how to order the coffee. So, in this case, it would have been 2 lattes. So you say 4 latte.
Yeah.
And then they say, "Do you want to sit here or take it away?" Which is sitta här eller ta med.
Eller ta med, yeah.
You can understand that shit.
Yeah, but then I'm just scared if he's going to ask me something else. Because we go in there quite, we do go in there quite often now. And I just feel like,
The dude's never heard you speak Swedish in his life. I always do the ordering in Swedish, and then you chat to me in English.
Then it's even then, the element of surprise, and then he'll get excited and then want to have a full-blown conversation. But then again, we're in Stockholm, that doesn't happen. But yeah, no,
how long have you been in the country? How do you not know how to speak Swedish?
It's just it's not one of my.
I mean, it reminded me of the person that goes to Spain and asks for your fucking daily record and square sauces.
I will defend this one here. We live in Stockholm where everyone speaks English. They learn it from the age of 5. So if anyone's under the age of 50, they're fluent in English. We work in an English school, and our friendship group is predominantly English speaking. Mm-hmm. So there is a defence to it, but you can order a bloody coffee.
Have you ever heard of Google Translate?
I can translate what I want to say. I just can't translate what they want to say.
Yeah, just hold the
It's like,
phone up,
no,
don't
I'd be
worry.
like, can you type here, mate? Like,
See,
You don't
we
need to.
we got
You don't
someone in
need
the
to
chat
type.
that's joining in
We live in
here.
2022. He just needs to talk more. The phone will pick it up. It's fine.
We got someone in the chat here who's popped in just to say, Morgie, learn Swedish. Learn Swedish Sign Language.
Swedish Sign Language. I don't even know.
Holy shit!
I don't even know English Sign Language. You told me to learn Swedish Sign Language. You're ambitious, Pixel. But and then no, and then the other argument we had was when we were sitting on this wall waiting for a cab, arguing where Swanley was located. Do you remember that, Joel?
Yeah, brings back a vague memory.
Morgan, were you
It
wrong?
was like,
It was just the whole point of it was just like, no, I think it's that way, and Joel was like, no, you're talking shit, Morgan, it's that way. That's what it was, and it was just back and forth, back and forth.
Oh, fantastic.
It was it was like an episode of One That Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It really was. It was like, no, I know where Swanley is.
I imagine because you were talking shit.
Probably.
Yeah, it was. Well, there you have it. There you have it. Well, as always, before we finish tonight's episode, we always like to end on one football-related question. I haven't told you to do this yet today.
No.
I want you guys to tell me, so I'm going to go with Joel first. Joel, the greatest football game you've ever watched. A Celtic game, that is.
The greatest Celtic game?
Yeah, greatest Celtic game you've ever watched.
It's just a bit difficult. I mean, do you go for like nostalgia or pure like? Because obviously the first game you ever go to watch, the first time you ever experience the atmosphere is unlike anything else. And then you've got the big European nights and everything. I think for me personally, it maybe isn't the greatest ever night, but for me, the one that I enjoyed the most was the game against United where Nakamura hits the free kick.
Oh, yes.
Going to school in South East London, which obviously meant I was surrounded by United fans.
It happens.
I just took shit. We'd lost 3-2 at Old Trafford. I took a load of shit off of these fucking plastics for a couple of weeks, and the team that they had at the time was incredible. Ferdinand, Giggs, Scholes, Van der Sar. It was mental, and Naka sticks it in the top corner from. He's no right to even shoot so far out, and he puts it in the top corner, and then Artur Boric saves the penalty from Louis Saha. It was amazing. I've never bounced into school so quick the next day. Like,
you know what? It was between two when I asked you that question, and the United game was one, and the other one was the Barcelona game.
Yeah, I think the Barca game was obviously incredible, but it was a set piece and then a mistake from Iniesta of all people that lets Tony Watt in. And heroics from Fraser Forster. It wasn't a game you really enjoyed. You kind of breathed a sigh of relief, and he was amazed at the end of it that we'd beaten him. But I don't know, the United game, it wasn't as sort of backs against the wall. That Barcelona team was incredible, and loads of honourable mentions. And we beat Liverpool in the UEFA Cup. The game at Anfield, Hartson and Thompson scored the goals. That whole run to the UEFA Cup final in 2003 when we went down and beat Graham Souness's Blackburn, and we got it right up that Hun cunt. So it's been some good times, and obviously the last 4 years have been take away the blip where we last season, but the other 4 years before that, the quadruple treble has been unbelievable. It's just incredible to win 12 domestic trophies back to back to back. Nowhere else in the world has done it. No matter if you're Bayern Munich dominating the Bundesliga, Juventus dominating Serie A, PSG in France, City in England, that no one has done that. It's just an incredible achievement. So with some magical domestic games, but I think for the ones that we enjoyed the most, it was the fact I was living in England at the time as well, and took so much bother off of them for a couple of weeks beforehand. It was a special day.
Yeah, you're spoilt for choice with Celtic. I mean, it goes to show how magical the club really are, and how lucky are we?
Yeah, I mean it's been the biggest blessing and the biggest curse. It's at times you wish that you didn't care as much, um, and then obviously times that you just feel so lucky to be associated with the club and the fan base and everything else. And it's it's been nowhere else I'd rather be.
Absolutely. Stu, over to you.
So, biggest game, you're Gordon. I mean, the best game I ever saw live was probably the Malmö game, but I think the best game I've ever been to was probably our first away day in Uppsala. It was the first time the lot of us went out as a group to an away day. It was outstanding. We just had so much fun, and the night out before was brilliant. The game, the atmosphere wasn't amazing, but our group had such a good time, and the game was brilliant itself. I mean, we won, so of course it was. But yeah, I think for me the best game was that first away day, and especially as it set up the tradition, and we've been to other away days since, and as I say, the Malmö game itself was an away day, but for me it's always going to be that first one because that's when the most of us went as well.
We still have a lot of stories to share about that weekend as well, which made it even more meaningful, didn't it?
Going down into the gym in our underwear and getting the receptionist to take a photo of us.
Yeah, no, that was another one.
We'll save that story for another time.
Yeah, exactly. I won't go into details of it, otherwise we'd be using up too much story time, will we?
Yeah. What's yours then, Fennon?
The thing is, I've got a Wales game in mind, but I did say club teams. No, for Cardiff, it has to be the FA. It has to be the FA Cup game against Leeds United back in 2003, I think it was. We were at the time a old Division 2 side, now known as League 1, and we got drawn at home to Leeds, who were currently top of the Premier League at the time, where they had the likes of Mark Viduka, Alan Smith, Lucas Radaby, David Batty, Ian Hart. A very, very dangerous Premier League team at the time. And they came to probably the most hostile atmosphere I've ever seen at Ninian Park. It was howling, absolutely howling. And it started off as I expected. We play a pass across our back line. It gets picked up in the midfield by Viduka, drives forward, hammers home 1-0, and it's just like, oh, alright, here we go. We're only a matter of minutes into the game, and Leeds are already tearing into us. And then a free kick pops up in an area that you would just never bet your money on your free kick taker, trying their luck. I mean, it was quite equivalent to when Cristiano Ronaldo scored that free kick against Arsenal at the Emirates in the Champions League. Graham Kavanagh steps up, and it just floats, it floats over the wall, over everyone in the box, and into the far top corner. Nigel Martin gets nowhere near it. And just from then on, it was just non-stop, end to end. And then just before half time, Leeds then go down to 10 men. And at that point, you believe, surely not. And then fast forward up to the last 10 minutes, we have a flurry of corners floating into the the Leeds box. Again, getting scrapped clear, and then third time's the charm. The ball drops. Scott Young stretches a leg, finds it beyond Nigel Martin and a few players on the line to put Cardiff City 2-1 up. And the place just erupted. Absolutely erupted. And we saw the game out and pulled off the biggest upset in the FA Cup that season. And just to wind up any Leeds fans listening, we were the reason of your downfall at the time. So, yeah, no, magical game. But we're going to end it there, guys. Thank you to everyone that have tuned in. If you want to catch the previous episodes, you can find them on our YouTube channel at Gondor Gaming.
No.
Can you not?
The football booth.
It's the football booth now. Yes, we forgot we have changed the name to football booth. I'm saying the channel name, like, sure. No, it's just the football booth.
Just the football booth.
Just football booth. I'm terrible at outros, just so you know. You can also find the podcast on Spotify and on Buzzsprout.
Also known as the football booth.
Also known as the football booth. This is why I have you here, okay? This is why I have you here, okay? I haven't quite, got to the grips of it, alright?
It's the football booth everywhere, guys.
It's the
Apart
football
from
booth
Twitch,
everywhere.
if you want to watch it live on Twitch, it's Gondor_gaming.
Yeah, don't watch it on Twitch, there's no volume. Anyway, Gondor, Mayhem, pleasure as always. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Hey door.